So, Marking Period 3 Study Guide. Number 1 is asking you to name the properties of a parallelogram. First property is that opposite sides are parallel. Opposite sides are congruent, meaning their measures are equal, and consecutive angles, meaning next to each other, are supplementary, which means they add up to 180 degrees. Diagonals also bisect each other, meaning they cut each other in half, with both sides of the diagonal being bisected being equal to each other. And that is number 1. Number 2, it is asking you for additional properties of a rectangle. Basically, rectangles are parallelograms, so it has all the above properties, but it also has additional ones. Like all angles are right angles. They all measure 90 degrees, and the diagonals are equal to each other in measure. Number 3, it says to name additional properties of a rhombus. A rhombus, all the sides are equal. The diagonals also bisect the angles, meaning it cuts the angles in half. Number 4, is a trapezoid a type of parallelogram? It is not. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with opposite sides being parallel to each other. In a trapezoid, only one pair of opposite sides are parallel, so the trapezoid is not a parallelogram. Number 5, similar triangles have the same shape, but not necessarily the same size. Okay, because remember, similar means like it, not exactly the same as it. That is congruent. So that is number 5. So 6 says, find the number of sides of a regular polygon with interior angles of 60 degrees. Now, the first thing we want to do is to find one exterior angle, because if you divide 360 degrees by one measure of the exterior angles, it will give you the number of sides, and we're given one interior. We know that the interior and exterior angles form a linear pair, so they add up to 180. So we subtract 180 from 60, and we get 120. And 120 is the measure of one exterior angle. So now we just divide 360 by 120, and we get 3. So for number 6, the number of sides is going to be 3, so it is a triangle. Remember, regular polygon means all the sides are the same. We know that an equilateral triangle has 3 angles of 60 degrees. And that is number 6. Number 7, if 6 over 13 equals x over 26, does 26 over x equal 6 over 13? That is going to be no. And the way you can tell is look at the diagonals. The first one, we have 6 times 26 and 13 and x. Here, if you multiply, we have 26 times 13 and x times 6, so they are not proportional with each other. So this is going to be no. Next one is asking you to simplify radical 72. Now what we do is look for the largest perfect square factor of 72. In this case, we'll have 36 and 2, with 36 being the large perfect square. So take the square root of 36, you get 6. So 6 times radical 2 is just 6 radical 2. So that would be the answer for that one. Okay, for this one, we have a isosceles trapezoid. So what we need to do is subtract this angle from 180, because these two angles add up to 180. So 180 minus 78 is just going to give me 102. So my answer is going to be 102. Let's look at the next one. Okay, this one requires you to use the mid-segment theorem. All that says is that the top base plus the bottom divided by 2 gives you this mid-segment. So all I do is add 22 plus 36 divided by 2. So I'll get 58 divided by 2, which is 29. So my answer is going to be 29. Okay, so for this one, we're going to use the same properties as the last problem, except we have expressions for each of these. So the way I like to set these up is to double the expression in the middle, so double the 5x plus 7, and set that equal to 2x plus 10 plus 4x plus 16. Okay, so I have 2x plus 10 plus 4x plus 16 equals 2 times 5x plus 7. So I distribute the 2 and I get 10x plus 14. I combine my like terms here, I get 6x plus 26. Now I will subtract 6 from both sides, and I'll get 26 equals 4x plus 14. Subtract 14 from both sides, I'll get 12 equals 4x. Divide both sides by 4, and x equals 3. So my answer is going to be 3 for number 3. Number 4, we got to set up proportions. So we'll write 12 over 4 equals 15 over x. And then we cross multiply. 12 times x is 12x. Then 15 times 4 is 60. We divide both sides by 12, and x would equal 5 for number 4. Okay, number 5. Again, we're setting up proportions. So notice we're given the full length of this side. So we're going to write the full length of this side, x, over top of this piece, 18. Now on this side, we've got to set up a similar proportion. The whole length of this side is going to be 6 plus 12, which is 18. So we'll have 18 over 12, which goes with this 18 here. So like I said, I'll have x over 18 equals 18 over 12. Cross multiply, I'll have 12x equals 18 times 18, which is 324. Divide both sides by 12, and I'll have x is 27 for number 5. Number 6, solving for x. We have to set up proportions, but the first thing we need to do is identify our similar triangles. We have this triangle here, and then this triangle here. Two different sized triangles, so let's write them both separately. The first one is this smaller one, 5 and 7 for its sides. The next one would be this larger one. Its base is 21, but this side would be x plus 5, which is the whole length of the larger triangle. So now we can set up our proportions. We can write 5 over x plus 5 equals 7 over 21. Now we cross multiply. 5 times 21 is 105, and then 7 times x plus 5 will give you 7x plus 35. Subtract 35 from both sides, you get 70. Divide both sides by 7, and x would equal 10. So for number 6, the answer will be 10. Number 7, we have a right triangle where we're given two of the sides. We can use the Pythagorean theorem. The side across from the 90 is the hypotenuse. That's always c. So we have this being c squared. This could be either a squared or b squared. So then we have a squared plus 9 squared equals 15 squared. Square both numbers. 9 squared is 81. 15 squared is 225. Subtract 81 from both sides, you get 144. Now you take the square root to find just a, which is 12. So your answer for number 7 is 12. Number 8, we do the exact same thing as number 7. 26 is c. 10 will either be a or b. So we have a squared plus 10 squared equals 26 squared. 10 squared is 100. 26 squared is 676. Subtract 10 or 100 on both sides. You'll get 576. You take the square root again to get a, and that is 24. So 8 equals a. Number 9. In this case, we are looking for the hypotenuse, or c. So we add both of these and square them. So 21 squared plus 28 squared equals c squared. 21 squared is 441. 28 squared is 784. Add them up, we get 1,225. Take the square root of both sides. You get c is 35. That is number 9. Number 10, we have similar triangles. So you got to write the proportional sides as a fraction. So x over 11, these sides go with each other. And then 5 over 10, because those sides correspond with each other. Now we cross multiply. 110 equals 5x. Divide both sides by 5, and x is 22. So number 10 will be 22. Number 11, geometric mean. All you do is multiply these two numbers together, which you get 36, and you take the square root, which is 6. So x is just going to be 6 for number 11. Number 12, we have the 45-45-90 rule of a right triangle. So the rule says, when you have a 45-45-90 triangle, the two legs are congruent to each other, which we know that because this is isosceles, since the angles are the same, that means the sides across from them will have the same measure. And the rule for a 45-45-90 triangle is with both of these being the same, the hypotenuse would just be that length times radical 2. You just put a radical 2 next to it. So for number 12, 6 is a leg. To find a hypotenuse, you just put radical 2 next to it. So your answer is 6 radical 2 for number 12. Number 13, 30, 60, 90 triangle. That rule is the smallest side is across from the smallest angle, the next smallest side is across from the next smallest angle, and the largest side, the hypotenuse, is across from the largest angle. Now, if we have the smallest angle being x, the hypotenuse is double that. And the next smallest side, to cross from the 60, is radical 3 times the smallest side. So, we are given the hypotenuse for number 13. And we're looking for the one across from 60. Always find the smallest side first. We know the hypotenuse is double the smallest side, so we divide that by 2, and we get 5. Now we know across from the 60, we have the smallest side times radical 3, so your answer would just be 5 radical 3 for number 13. And that's the answer. To wash a window that is 20 feet off the ground, Mario leans a 25-foot ladder against the side of the building. To reach the window, how far away from the building should Mario place the base of the ladder? So drawing out this triangle. Here is the 20 feet high the window is. 25 feet for the ladder is leaning. We're looking for how far away from the building to place the base of the ladder. So that's this nav here. We're given 2 out of 3 sides of a right triangle, such as use the Pythagorean theorem. 25 is C, so we have a squared plus 20 squared equals 25 squared, which is a squared plus 400 equals 625. Subtract 400 on both sides, you get 225. Square root of 225 is 15, so you will have 15 feet as the answer. Number 2, we have a slide being 15 feet long and 12 feet high. How long is its base from the bottom of the ladder to the end of the side? So here's our slide, 15 feet long for the side, and it is 12 feet high. We're looking for the base from the ladder, from the bottom of the ladder to the end of the side. So the ladder to the side, this base here. So again, 15 squared is C. So we have a squared plus 12 squared equals 15 squared. A squared plus 144 equals 225. Subtract 144 on both sides, and a squared is 81. Take the square roots, you'll get a is 9. So it will be 9 feet from the end. That is number 2. Number 3. A girl 120 centimeters tall stands 400 centimeters from a lamppost at night. Her shadow from the light is 80 centimeters long. How high is the lamppost? So we got to draw this out. So we have our lamppost and the girl. She's standing 400 centimeters away from the lamppost. So if she's standing here, the lamppost is here. She is 400 centimeters away from that. And she is 120 centimeters tall. Her shadow from the light is 80 centimeters long. So the shadow here is 80 centimeters. And we're looking for how high the lamppost is. So now we have similar triangles. We have this triangle here and this larger one here. So the smaller one is just 120 and 80 for the vertical and horizontal lengths. For the space at the bottom, for the larger triangle, you add 80 plus 400 and get 480. The height is still x. Now we set up our proportions. You'll have 120 over x equals 80 over 480. Cross multiply, you'll get 57,600 equals 80x. Divide both sides by 80, and x equals 720. So the lamppost is 720 centimeters tall. And that is the answer. That is the last one on the study guide.